Well, we get the opportunity to be back here every afternoon, which is my treat to have friends in my network, influencers, other serial entrepreneurs. This guy checks all the boxes. He's awesome. He's been a friend of mine for quite a bit of time. Author of a couple of books. You know, you got to have balls. And when he first sent it to me, he goes, "You got balls," which I love. His most recent book, Living on Purpose. I have yellow line through the entire thing. I am excited to welcome my friend, my colleague, super, super entrepreneur, Brandon Steiner. It's your chance to tell us something good, my friend.
The lady's been traveling. She's gone let's just jump to it. We don't need to just skip the pleasantries because, you know, I know there's a lot of people out there that need to just that little push, but I want to tell a quick story. This lady's out there. She's killing it. Meeting after meeting after meeting, busy, misses her family, just wants to get home. She's been working, probably had a phenomenal week on sales, but she just wants to get home. She's starving, got to get to the airport. She's got one more meeting, afraid she's going to miss the flight. She gets to the meeting, makes the biggest sale of the week, so she stayed with it. And on the way to the airport, realized I don't need airplane food, I don't need airport food. I got to eat, I'm starving. Picks up a bag of cookies, gets to the airport, runs through security. They're closing the door. Steve, they're closing the door. She's like, "Please don't." Sneaks onto the plane, gets on the plane, and sure enough, finally, I'm on my way. And she realized she's in the last row in the middle seat next to two big Lukes. Two just huge guys, and she's squeezed in between the two of them, one bigger than the next. And she's like, "Oh, God, this can't be any worse." The end, last row, I got these two big guys next to me. And sure enough, the plane takes off. Pulls out the tray. There's a bag of cookies on the tray. She grabs one of her cookies. "Oh, fine, I'm starving. At least I can eat a cookie." And next thing she knows, the guy next to her puts his hand in the cookie bag and he grabs a cookie. She's like, "You believe this guy? The nerve." So she grabs another cookie, doesn't think much of it. He grabs another one. She grabs one. He grabs another. She grabs another and he grabs another. Hang on, I'm going somewhere. She gets up off the seat because she's so upset, goes up and down the aisle. "I'm going to kill this guy, the nerve of this guy. I mean, I've been working my tail off. I just want to get home. This is the only thing I'm going to eat." Goes back to her seat, grabs a cookie, he grabs another. She grabs one, grabs another, and there's one cookie left. She looks at him. He looks at her. And he says, "You want to split it?" She's like, "Can you believe the nerve of this guy? Unbelievable." And she said, "You can have it." Finally, the plane lands. Of course, she's in the last row. It takes forever to get off the plane. Finally gets to the airport. She goes to her car, opens up her pocketbook to get into the keys to her car, and realizes that the bag of cookies that she bought is still in her pocketbook. And that she was eating the guy's cookies. And the thing I say to you, Steve, is have you ever been so dead set on the way you feel and the way you looked at something, and then you were just wrong, dead wrong? Have you ever felt that way? You just knew, you thought something about someone or a situation you were just so convicted about, and then down the road you realize we're wrong. And I think in order, when you go through a virus like this, when you go through situations of transition like we're going through now, perspective. Because sometimes having faith and sometimes your view on the world is going to dramatically change at a moment's notice. And maybe you're not even seeing things clearly because of the drama you're going through. And it's so important to keep perspective. And a lot of perspective is gratitude. And I remember walking down the street with my son, and we were debating, about going to this clothing store. And we're walking down the street, and he says, "Dad, I think you should go this way." And I'm like, "No, I think it's this way." And he turned to me and he goes, "Dad, have you ever been wrong, like dead wrong?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like a lot." And it's really interesting because how important perspective is. And as you grow older, particularly in this kind of environment, you don't want to go to your grave having looked back on this situation and said, A, I did nothing. B, I guessed wrong, and I was just hiding underneath my desk or hiding behind my couch, being afraid. I'm not home today and for the last 3 months because I'm scared. I'm home because I'm smart. I'm home because I got a strategy. And I'm digging my wells every day, way before I'm thirsty, like Harvey McKay taught me many years ago. So if you're home and you feel a little stagnant and confused, it's a shift, but dig your wells before you're thirsty. Think about the things that you're going to be able to do and who you do it with down the road and set those relationships up, set those business ideas and principles up now while you have the time. Was that what you were looking for?
First of all,
something good?
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
First of all, I knew this would be total energy.
You got me fired up.
When I read that book, that was the one story that literally I was out of my mind, just saying, you know what? It is all about perspective. It's all how you look at stuff. Light glasses, dark glasses. Look at from a different angle. So you're this serial entrepreneur. Everybody knows that you're the guy that bought Yankee Stadium. So tell me.
Quite a project, yeah.
So tell people sort of what you did, how you pivoted, and what you're doing now, because the determination, and you talk about strategy, this was vision from a while ago that's coming to fruition now. So share that with
I've been
our
working
audience.
on these ideas for a few years, but first of all, we are giving away a free book on my website, which you'll post. So anybody holding up those books, just go to CollectibleXchange and you can get the book free. Just pay for shipping. Any one of my 3 books. But the thing is that a lot of people talk about how important it is to work out every day. You talk about it in your book, the importance of staying physically in shape. I talk a lot about going to the mental gym. You must get yourself mentally focused and make sure you're stable to deal and have the stamina to get through a virus and some of these difficulties. I never saw this coming, nor did anyone. And it's tough. It's difficult. But my thinking was 2 things. One, when I started CollectibleXchange, I was like, all these people have all this product, especially now they're home. So this has actually been a boost for me, this virus. I hate to say it because I hate to see life's lost and it's terrible. But we've all been home. We've all cleaned out our closets, basements. And we have all this stuff to sell. I now have over 40,000 things on my site. I just launched it 4 months ago. And now CollectibleXchange, people are going on there because their wives are killing you. Get your stuff up on the site. So the site's actually starting to boom. So you never know when you're going to take a twist and turn. And my goal is to have a site where people can take all their collectibles and proprietary stuff, game used, art, and put it up on a site that's safe. That's something that eBay doesn't provide. So when you buy and sell something on our site, we provide, if the buyer wants, authentication. And then the Steiner Agency books athletes for speaking, PR, promotion. We didn't see this coming, but immediately I pivoted and said, wait a minute. All these CEOs, sales VPs, you can only do so many Zoom calls where they're listening to you. So why not bring the players and celebrities onto these Zoom calls to get it exciting, to get your customers who sometimes are hard to get on the phone in times like this. So we've been doing that. And then last week I came up with a program, even just to pivot again. I'm like, the first responders, nurses, doctors, they're the heroes, Steve. But so are parents and their kids. Think about how hard it's been to parent. So we came up with a series of clinics.
Wow.
So we're doing clinics for families and kids to break it up for them. Here's what I have an NBA player. Here's what I would do if I was home and only had my backyard to do it. Here's how you get better in basketball. Here's how you get ready to pitch and play Little League, even though you may miss your season. So I have a bunch of companies now buying into Kids Win is the program. And I just came up with it in the shower one day. I don't know.
You talk about perspective and you talk about ideation. When I was walking through your warehouse, when I came to visit, and we've done a bunch of podcasts together and we've had a really good run. When I was looking at some of the stuff, you took the memorabilia business to a place no one could have ever dreamed about. And I remember this distinctly, like walking down the aisle and you're like pointing stuff and you go, oh yeah, that's from the field at Yankee Stadium when Alex Rodriguez or Derek Jeter won. I was like,
Notre Dame
how the hell do you, like, how do you come up with shit like this?
I don't know, man. I think it starts with just being extremely humble and humiliated as a kid and thinking about everything being important. But the answer to your question really is, and I think the 10 and 11-year-old is such a powerful person at that age. And I try to stay with that mindset because when you're 10 and 11, I feel like anything can happen. You could be the next president. You could be the shortstop of the Yankees. You could be a scientist, a doctor. That's when all those things are really coming into play, where it's not like, I want to be a fireman when I grow up. Nothing wrong with that, of course. But when you're 10, 11, you start putting some of that stuff really in your mind and thinking about it. And I try to keep that 10, 11-year-old mindset where everything's possible. Everything's in play. Everything's the game. I meet with a 10-year-old. And if I can't do that, I go look for 10, 11-year-olds in my neighborhood. And I go hang out with them, with their parents. And when I see an 11-year-old at the ballpark, I can't wait to talk with them and their parents and know what they're thinking and see what's kind of jazzing them up, because the 11-year-old mindset is outstanding. It's amazing.
In all of this stuff, first of all, you're a master storyteller. You tell stories about when you were young and how you built your entrepreneurial spirit. Would you mind sharing that? Because it's such a humble, real story that I think that is certainly was the start of making you who you are, who you were. You have access to unbelievable stuff, but you're still the same dude I know for years.
Yeah, I mean, I think my friends from growing up, and by the way, that's very complimentary. Thank you. I don't think the people I grew up with would say the same. I was a weird kid. I was a weird kid because everything was a hustle, grind, and I always say your first idea is not your best idea. So whatever idea I had, I would quadruple it. Whatever I was doing, I remember when I was a kid, I drew a picture. I was like 7 years old, and I give it to my grandfather to try to sell it to him. It's like, he goes, okay, I'll give you $1. I'm like, no, I need 2. And already my mother said to me, you're not normal. That's not a normal thing to hustle your grandfather to get $2 because he'd be embarrassed not to give it to you. And my mom owned a salon. Just to give you another example, like my mom owned a salon. She says, I want you to give out circulars, flyers underneath the train. We had the F train. And there were 4 entrances and exits to the F train. So I start giving out the flyers. And about 2 weeks, I'm standing in front of my mother's salon. She's like, didn't I tell you to give out flyers at rush hour to the people coming off the train and come and go? I said, I am. I said, well, you're standing in front of the salon. Obviously, you're not giving out the flyers. I'm like, Mom, I have 4 of my friends, 1 at each entrance and exit that I hired. I went to 5 other stores. I'm giving out their flyers. They're paying me. I make a little bit on each one of those flyers for the kids. And I'm not even paying them cash because the kids weren't able to take the money. I bought some fireworks on the side. I'm paying them in fireworks. So I'm making some extra money on the barter.
Wow.
And my mother's like, that's not normal. You're like 11 years old. Like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, listen, I'm running a business. You wanted me to get a job done. I got it done. I thought of a better way to do it. So I think for me, it starts, and I really want you to listen to this story because it's not the sexiest story, but it's a true story. I was 10 years old in the 5th grade. I lived on 539 Kings Highway, by the way, in a very, very busy part of Brooklyn. And I was at school. So anyway, Mel Kerper was my 5th grade teacher. And he calls me up to the front of the room and he gives me an envelope of money. And he's like, we took a collection view to buy some clothes. I said, how do you know I need clothes? He goes, well, you're wearing the same pants 3 weeks in a row. I said, how do you know that? He goes, well, you got a rip in the right knee. So, as a kid, you don't realize how poor you are. You only know what you know. I go home. My mother's like, oh, you're in between sizes. No big deal. I was going to buy you some clothes. And when I went back to my room and I thought about it, I was like, that's just not adding up. So I go to my mother's room and I'm 10. And I said, Mom, on Saturday, I will go out and get a job. You don't need to worry about me anymore. I will make money for my own clothes and food. And if I could add to the family, great. Now, I don't recommend that. If any of you out there have a 10-year-old, just getting them dressed. I mean, just getting them ready in the morning is a huge task. I get up on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. and I'm out on the road on Kings Highway. It's a long strip of retail. And I'm looking for a job. Yeah, and I'm not coming home until I get that job. And Freddie the Fruit Man hired me at $1.50 an hour to stock fruit and vegetables and deliver fruit and vegetables to the wealthier people in the neighborhood. And, how I hope that story relates to the people is that at some point you got to remove the excuses and the circumstance that you were put in and not let them dictate your future and dictate where you're headed. And I always say to people, like, it doesn't really matter where you are. What matters is what you're willing to accept. And for me, it started at 10. I'm like, I'm just not accepting this. I'm just not accepting being this poor. And I'm not going to cry about it. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to do something about it. And believe me, I was never late for that job, ever. And I worked as many hours as that guy would let me work and made that money. And then I've never stopped working since. And I think it's really important for 2 things when you're out there. Are you accountable? Are you taking responsibility for where you're at right now and not using excuses of different things that have happened to you along the way?
So true.
Because everybody uses those excuses, and you got to put those chapters to rest, and you got to start writing a new chapter. You could talk yourself into your dreams. You could talk yourself out of your dreams. But it all starts with, what are you willing to accept? And are you willing to have a high level of non-acceptance? Because that's the beginning of the chapter you want to write is, I'm not putting up with this shit anymore. I'm not taking this relationship that I'm in anymore. I'm not working at this job that I'm not getting paid enough for. Whatever it is, high level of non-acceptance, Steve, will take you to commitment, It will take you to purpose. It will take you to passion.
I get chills.
It will take you everywhere you want to go. And for me, it started when I was 10. I'm like, I'm not putting up with wearing the same pants and hand-me-downs. I got to go out and do something about it. So if you want to get a bigger house, if you want to get a nicer car, whatever it is, if it's a money grab, you want to put more money in charity, take a look and turn the volume up on your non-acceptance.
It's so great to hear it from people who actually do it and have done it. I think one of the problems with the, consulting or coaching world is you got people barking all kinds of do this and do that. And they go, well, you didn't do it. You did it. So you did it when you were 10. I'm going to fast forward, if you would, and talk about how you started. I think I have the story right with Mark Messier. Is that correct? How that was like
train. So I'm on the train. And again, the high level of non-acceptance. My mom had just passed. Now, my mother was you got to have balls. That was her favorite line, by the way. The book is all about her and all the stuff that she taught me that I completely ripped her off and made a ton of money on. When I go up to heaven and see my mom, she is going to give me a bill. She is going to give me a bill like, you owe me so much freaking money. And
good for her. Good for her.
Right now. Because the book is all about everything my mother taught me. And I was one of those kids that listened. So I'm on the train, and probably one of my lowest days was my mom had just passed June 17, 1994. But one of my happiest days simultaneously. I'm a big New York Ranger fan, hockey. Love the Rangers. 54 years. They hadn't won a cup, and they just won the cup. And I looked down at the guy's newspaper, and there's a picture of Mark Messier holding the cup with a grin from ear to ear. Happiest man in Babylon, ever. The guy across from me eating Chinese food. The other guy sitting next to me is arguing with his wife. I think they're definitely divorced. I'm like, I got to get off this train. It's driving me crazy. I could never make the train, and I'd be on the train station waiting for the next train. My wife would always say, those trains don't wait for you. You may want to get a few minutes early. I'm like, it's just not how I operate. I got to get off this train. And immediately I'm saying to myself, I don't have the balls, because I was just getting started, to go to my wife, who was really making the money and had a much higher level paying job. Honey, I want to get a car to drive to work. I don't have the balls to ask for that. So I'm thinking, I got to figure out how to make some money. I looked down at that newspaper. I'm like, I bet you I could sell 15,000 of those. And sure enough, it took me about 3 months to track Mark Messier down, his sister, brother, accountant, lawyer. And I tracked Mark down, and all with the mindset of I just wanted to buy a car. And that was my first signing and contract that I did with Mark Messier. And I started my collectible company from that signing with Mark, which ended up being one of my great boosters of the starting Steiner Collectibles, which was having Mark Messier. And the thing I say is, the motivation wasn't to help mankind. It wasn't like, I wanted to go bring such happiness and joy. I was like, I just want to get off the freaking train. And the thing I tell people, and I listen, all the collectible stuff that I've done over the last 30 years has been about bringing fans closer to the game. It has been giving customers and fans something that could wow them. But initially, it was a money grab. And I tell people all the time, sometimes it's okay. Just stick your head out the window and say, something? I just want to buy a watch. I just want to buy a car. I want to buy a bigger house. It's okay to once in a while just want to do a money grab. But if you're doing it all the time, for year after year after year, then you're probably on the wrong track.
Gets old. That gets old.
I think once in a while, it's okay just to get into a serious mode. And for me, I was just getting off the damn train. And sure enough, that fall, I bought myself a beautiful Lexus that I drove to work, and I've been driving ever since. And,
awesome.
Sometimes it comes from non-acceptance. I'm not staying on this train. I know it sounds stupid, but
no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
I'm just not staying on this train. And
what's interesting,
is such a motivator. It's such an initiator, really.
I love it. So for me, first of all, I'm a Ranger fan as well. So to know that I could buy, I would have bought anything. I wound up meeting him years later. He was in a restaurant in New York, and I'm with a whole bunch of business people. And I said, stop the presses. I have to go over and say hello. And I'm not one of those guys, but I broke into the dinner and said, dude, you changed my life, man. I was running down the street with the, so and I got
every
that
bit of
feeling.
Person. He's as good a person.
Oh, he was so cool.
He was so cool. A great hockey player. The best.
He was great. But as it pertains to sales, what's really interesting is that I believe that you need the Simon Sinek, you need the why, but short term, I tell people, put up a picture of what you want to get. a watch, a car, a better looking lady, a boat. That visualization allows you to deal with the bullshit you have to get or have to go through. You said, listen, and I've never heard you say this. When we got on and started talking, when you hopped out of the crib, man, you didn't know how to walk.
Well, it's funny. I mean, everything at the beginning is really hard. And that's what you got to realize. It's like, life's difficult. The faster you realize it's difficult, when you run into difficulty, it's not going to be as tough for you. Yeah, this virus is hard. Did you think life was just going to be smooth, easygoing, no problems? Because it's never been that way since we know the beginning of time, where there hasn't been some kind of virus, some kind of war, some kind of depression, some kind of everything. But realize that's part of life. Think about how great we have it, but there are going to be some holes, you're going to step into. And I think it's really important, again, to have that high level of faith, to know that, this too shall pass, at least from my standpoint. I think it's really important. And again, when I was in the crib, I didn't pop out of the crib and start walking. I mean, it was a bitch, just getting out. I'm sure I fell a ton of times. It was frustrating for my mom, but I'm sure at no point did she say, he's not a walker. I don't think it's going to happen. He's like, oh, don't worry, you're going to be fine. And you kept trying. You had that support. So I tell people, even though we're going through tough times, be supportive to the people around you. Because to do something, particularly at the beginning, if you're an entrepreneur, you need positive reinforcement a lot. That's what makes me nervous about the stay-at-home gig now. Everybody's like, oh, we're going to work from home. We're going to work from home. Wait a minute. I worry about the mental, not feeding off of the group you're working with, not feeding off of the phones ringing, not feeding off of distractions of your kids and the garbage man coming and, whatever it is. Like, you got to be really much more self-disciplined, because it's one thing to have a job where you can work from home. It's another thing to keep it. You still got to be productive.
Still got to be productive.
Probably most of us are commuting 30 minutes to an hour a day. That's 2 hours a day, 10 hours a week. What are you doing with the extra 10 hours to be more productive, not taking advantage of being home when nobody's watching and being less productive? And I think managers are going to have a real challenge to worry more about the mental mindset for long term, so their staff doesn't get bored or complacent or not motivated.
Or fatigued. I mean, one of the things I'm noticing is people are just fatigued by I don't know what's going to happen a week or a month from now. And is this it? Is this what I'm doing? So I think you hit on some amazing, amazing points. We could do this forever. And I always love doing it. We should. You know what? Maybe create a series. Let's create a series.
Benjamin Buttons, by the way. I'm Benjamin. That's what I tell my guys.
You're getting younger.
My basketball group, I'm like, I'm Benjamin. When I come on, all you in trouble, because I've been shooting, playing, and that's why I look at my life now. I'm like, I'm Benjamin. That's my new name, Benjamin Buttons. BB. Just call me Benjamin Buttons, because I'm getting younger now every day. I'm gonna kill it when this is over. I'm digging every well I can. I'm talking to people I haven't been able to talk to in years, and having real conversations with them without them being distracted and setting up a phone call 3 months from now.
I think you hit on
to do some thinking.
Oh yeah. You know what? So how can people get in touch with you? I want people to get your book for sure. I want people, if they have collectibles, they should try and put their stuff on the site. Correct? Is that sort of the mindset?
If I can help you, I mean, one of the things I talk about, I just want to mention one more thing about the workshop and perspective. I think it's really important as a sales manager, and you do a great job of this, Steve, and I've seen you operate and make a difference in sales groups. And one of the things I try to do when I'm doing these workshops, whether online and in person, is I tell the group right away. And I think it's important for managers to declare, I know I need you to sell more, but it's also important to declare what's in it for them. And that when you're not seeing your staff every day, having lunch, whatever, you need to have those one-on-one conversations with, look, yes, I need you to hit a number. What's in it for you? What do I need to do to provide something so you can look forward to it? And if it's materialistic, if it's getting a new car or whatever it is, that's okay. I think those kind of conversations, when I go and do a talk for a sales group, I tell the group, look, your manager hired me to come do this talk, and I know he wants me to get you to sell more and do more. Who doesn't? But I'm here to figure out what's going to help you win. What's going to create a winnable game for you, whether it's going to get some house on a nice, beautiful beach, whether it's going to get more days off every year, whatever it is. Let's come clean and think about what is really important to you and what winning is for you. And this is a great time of life right now to think about what's winning for you. what's
love
winning
it.
for your spouse, what's winning for your kids, and help the people around you along with yourself to win, because we all love to win. If you want to get a hold of me, I'm a big LinkedIn guy, as you are. I love you on LinkedIn, and I can go all day and watch your content on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. You have to follow me. I don't know why 30,000, so I'm over that limit now. But LinkedIn, you go to brandonsteiner.com and you can get my blog and a whole bunch of other free stuff. And I'm big on Facebook. I do a lot of lives on Facebook too. So I answer every response like you do. I answer every message. And I hope you guys go get the free book on CollectibleXchange, because it's worth the time to read.
I love them both. I have them both. They're both, daily readings. I just told them I rip them off the shelf. I have them all yellow markered. Thank you. I know your time is valuable. I am not kidding. I think once a month we could do a question and answer like we did with Thompson, just you and me. I think it'd be an amazing online event. Let's do that.
I'm not gonna lie.
Really
you're probably the best thing that's gonna happen to me today. Honestly, I'm hoping this conversation doesn't end, because I'm other than maybe my dog is running away from me now. I mean, I don't know what to do. So please,
dude, if I'm the best thing, if I'm the best thing that happens to you today, my condolences. You can have a rough
I'm a little stir crazy. I have nowhere to go.
I love you, my friend. You're the best.
Stay safe. Stay smart.
Love you. Boom.